we know now that I think ENS is working with Metropolis, which were formerly as Orca, and I know you guys are close there, to establish the governance pods, which are essentially smaller working groups which specialise in specific areas like DAO ops, protocols, security, etc., community and public goods. I guess this model is similar to what the DYDX DAO is looking to explore, and Derek, as you know, we're in the midst of launching the second sub DAO, which is going to look after the operations of the larger DAO. Personally, I think I'm a fan of this approach, as I believe it does allow for more competent and efficient governance. I guess what are your thoughts on or around this model, as opposed to having, say, token holders and or delegates vote on every single proposal? Maybe Derek, as I know you're close there first. Like, any thoughts on that model specifically?
Yeah, I think like big fan of Orca protocol. I think like they've been like from very early on. I think they predicted this trend and built a product specifically to make decision making in DAOs easier. So I think they've been thought leaders for the past really 2 years on DAO governance, and I personally haven't been as following the ENS stuff as closely as Linda, but I think pods are a great tool, and I think that this is literally Orca's entire point, right? To make decision making easier and more efficient. So I think ENS is a cool example. But yeah, I don't know if you have anything to add there.
No, I thought you covered it well. I think one thing I would add separately is one thing I like about Metropolis, formerly known as Orca, is that they allow you to delegate to a group, and then that group is can change over time, but you don't have to delegate, undelegate, redelegate to a different person. And so for example, it's you're delegating to blockchain at Berkeley, and they obviously are made up of a bunch of students who then rotate out, and I think this just creates a more efficient process, because I'm kind of in the situation these days where I kind of eventually I will not want to be a delegate, forever, and I would have to ask people to undelegate and redelegate, and that's an on-chain action, and you're asking a lot from people. And so I kind of like this model where you can just kind of have these groups change themselves over time and move things off-chain.
Nice. And I think obviously with smaller sub-DAOs or smaller pods coming into play here, there might be a higher level of potentially centralization and a higher degree of off-chain governance. So how can communities ensure that these groups of subject matter experts or councils on each of their specific pods be held accountable?
Yeah, I think we just have to also have ways of voting people out and just regular checks on updates on what the group is doing. So I think an example would be Gitcoin. So Gitcoin's been operating or Gitcoin DAO has been operating for almost 2 years now, and we're far into the workstream model, so very similar to these pods, committees, small working groups. And every quarter so far, they've had to publish their OKRs and how close they were to achieving them, how well they did, and then kind of ask for their next set of funding. There's a lot of challenges with this process as well, because people are getting paid quarter by quarter, and there's uncertainty. So I think there's things that can be improved here, but there's this accountability, because delegates aren't going to be continuing to fund these working groups if they're not actually being productive and using the funds well. And you actually see in the forums, delegates are really involved in being well, you're asking for this amount for this specific thing for next quarter. Is this actually necessary? This feels kind of a nice to have, or can we just focus on, the key deliverable here? And so I like that process, is you just kind of have these regular checks of accountability, and then ways of just voting people out or stopping a funding process. And again, everything's always a balance. You don't want to be too restrictive on them as well, because you want people to have freedom to be able to evolve and change as things go along.
Appreciate it. Derek, any inputs there?
Yeah, I think it really just starts with, communication and having some way of regularly seeing what's going on, either on a weekly or a monthly cadence, being available to feedback, to answering questions that people have, and being evaluated. I think that's super important. So yeah, I think those are some of the things that can make the process easier.
Yeah, I think like over on the DYDX side, it's pretty interesting to see like how this model kind of plays out as well. Again, I think like we subscribe to, you know, having subject matter experts on specific smaller working groups really make decisions. So, you know, we have more competent and efficient governance. But again, like this whole experiment is new as well. And we'll all, I guess, learn along the way.